Relationships crumble when needs aren't met. Not because you're bad at love, not because the other person's a douchebag, no, simply because two human beings didn't handle each other's needs properly. Here's why this matters. Without understanding how crucial needs are and how they work in the first place, you will continue to stay in relationships with people who aren't even able or willing to meet your needs in the first place, dismiss or ignore other people's needs and hurt them in the process, convince yourself that the other person is wrong, bad or narcissistic, when really they just need different things than you and they're just wired differently, or you'll stay confused as to why something that should work just doesn't feel right. Zoom out from any relationship drama and you will see one thing: unmet needs just showing up as spiky emotions. For example, Tom and Sarah are in a relationship, and Tom has the needs of reassurance and closeness, whereas Sarah has the needs of space and independence. So Tom feels uneasy whenever Sarah goes out without him, but Sarah feels controlled whenever Tom asks her detailed questions about where you're going, who you're going with, how long will you be out for, why are you not going with me? And when a situation like this comes up and Tom and Sarah get caught up in an argument about it, they get stuck in the surface level of the relationship iceberg, let's call it. They argue about each other's tone, how Tom sighs whenever Sarah rolls her eyes, the hurtful words they both use, the heated emotions. But strip all of that back and you'll see that underneath it all is just one thing: two valid human needs pulling in opposite directions. Now, you've probably experienced something similar to this before. If you're a human being, you've definitely experienced something similar to this before. You're having a conversation with someone that's someone close to you, but suddenly the conversation just gets weirdly intense and emotional. That's not a sign of failure on your part or the other person's. No, it's just a signal of one key thing: misaligned or miscommunicated needs. So to help all of this sink in one step further, here's a quick analogy. Relationships are like a bridge, supported by needs. But when that structure, when those needs go unsupported, the bridge collapses and the relationship collapses with it. By the way, whenever we say relationship here, even though we're talking about the context of romantic relationships, this also applies to family, friendships, and every other type of relationship. So here's what to do next. In order to make your relationships awesome, you just need to follow the mature adult formula. Wait, is that what I called it? The mature adult formula? No, if you look here. Oh yeah, the mature relationship formula. First of all, you need to identify your needs, and the easiest place to search for them is your emotions, because your emotions are simply feedback for you as to whether your needs are being met or unmet. So your needs are hiding, most often, in your negative emotions. If a specific situation has popped up in a relationship you're in that you feel uneasy towards, pay attention to your emotion, because all it's trying to say is, hey, there's this thing that we need that currently isn't being fulfilled right now. So you can ask a question that will get you closer to the answer of what do I need right now, which is, what do I need right now to feel okay? And that will most likely highlight your need in this specific situation or in a general sense. Some quick examples. If you feel anxious, that could be the signal that you need reassurance or certainty. Irritation could be the signal that you need respect or space. Feeling disconnected or lonely could mean you need attention or closeness. But there is one key thing I want you to remember when it comes to figuring out what you need. If your need is controlling of the other person, that is not a need, that is a strategy. For example, I need you to text me more. That's not a need, that's a control attempt of the other person. I need reassurance, that is a need. I need you to compliment my outfit. No, that's a strategy. I need appreciation. Cool, that is a need. Then after you identify your needs, you then learn your partner's needs, because it takes two to tango in a relationship. And you approach identifying your partner's needs through the same lens that you use to identify yours, which is perhaps you don't take their emotions at the surface level, you simply question to yourself in your head, what might they be needing right now? But then you go one step further, you don't play the guessing game, and you ask them, what do you need right now? And now you understand the difference between a strategy and a need. You steer them away from the strategies they might communicate and get deeper to what they're really needing. And then third of all, second to last, you communicate your needs to them clearly. Along the sentence of, actually, here's what I need in this situation, or here's what I need in general. And you understand one very harsh truth, one big harsh truth about relationships, which is the other person has the right to meet or not meet your need. They don't have to accept it, nor do they have to approve of it, nor do they have to help you meet it. It's a choice. It doesn't come with the inherent expectation that as soon as you communicate the need, they have to meet it. Then number 4, what you do is you decide if you're willing or able to meet your partner's needs in this situation, or again in a general sense. Then you have 2 directions. If the answer is yes, you commit fully to helping them meet it. And you can tell whether you're actually willing or able to meet their needs by asking, now I've understood what their needs are, do I have the sufficient time, energy, and resources and willingness to help them meet this need? If the answer is yes, commit fully. But if the answer is no, 2 things. Admit to them. If this is someone genuinely important to you in your life, I can't meet your needs right now. Or vice versa. Admit, you can't meet my needs right now. And then you shatter the expectation of you having to meet their need or them having to meet your need. And you just admit the truth. But if it's a persistent problem that is coming up, you need this thing and it's constantly going unfulfilled and you're feeling continuously uneasy in the relationship because of their unwillingness or inability to meet your need, you leave respectfully. You don't resent the other person, you just leave and you admit, you can't meet my need, I can't meet your need, so I'm just going to leave respectfully. Same when it comes to friendships. Family's a bit different, but hopefully that makes sense. This is the main takeaway I want you to have from this whole video, which is mature adult love isn't fantastical imaginations of the other person or constant chemistry and magical magic. No, it's just needs plus willingness. That is it. And you'll find that any relationship you've been in that hasn't worked is just unwillingness to meet each other's needs. That's all. That's the main takeaway I want you to have from this video. So if that all makes sense, then feel free to click off now. But if you would like to go a few minutes deeper, then here's what we're going to cover within the rest of the video. So you have a really consolidated understanding of all of this stuff. First of all, we're going to cover what needs are and get really clear on the definition of this thing, this word that we keep throwing around in this video. Then we'll get clear on what emotions are and how they relate to needs, so you can understand not only your emotions better, but other people's in your relationships, so your relationships flourish. Then we'll cover where your needs come from, the 3 places, which I found fascinating when researching for this video. And then we will end on a important nuance, which if you don't understand, your relationships are going to be incredibly messy and your mental health is going to go to pot, as we say in English, in your relationship. So yeah, the nuance is important. Anyway, let's go. First point. First of all, let's cover what needs actually are. Well, just to reiterate the point we covered a few minutes ago, needs are not text me every hour, always agree with me, never talk to other people. These are control attempts, strategies, and just not nice in a relationship. Here's what a need actually is. Needs are the basic things humans require to feel safe, connected, and respected. Here is a list of the most basic, common human needs that we all share, which is from Marshall Rosenberg's book, Never Split the Difference? No, that's Chris Voss. Non-violent communication, which I did a whole video on, which feel free to check that out. I'll pop that up on the screen now. And what this helps us understand is that any drama within a relationship is literally just 2 human beings arguing about security versus freedom, respect versus autonomy, closeness versus space, certainty versus novelty. And everything will change in your relationships when you understand that the reason why most conflict never gets solved is simply because, let me remove that quickly, is simply because people stay on the surface level of things, again, arguing about the tone of voice, arguing about hurtful words, arguing about this, that, the other thing. When the real solution to the conflict lies much deeper, as we've said, which is just addressing, okay, what do you need? What do I need? Can I help you meet your need? Can you help me meet my need? That's the key way to solve any conflict. Now, pretty short point there. So now let's move on to what emotions are and how they relate to needs. What we said earlier is your emotions are just the signals telling you whether something or a need of yours is being met or unmet. An analogy to think about when it comes to emotions, to link them to the topic of needs and to give it all relevance, is think about your emotions as if they are the dashboard lights on a car. You know, if, depending on what car you have, if the engine oil level is low, boom, a light will flash up while you're driving to let you know what the car needs. So too, if a tyre goes out, again, depending on the car you have, another light will flash up telling you what the car needs. So in this sense, your emotions are the middlemen between you and your needs. So they're feedback. You know, what you feel most intensely is mostly the sign that something important to you is being unmet or threatened. Now, just applying this to a quick bonus context of ours, which is we speak a lot about mental health on this channel, understanding something as simple as this is a great way to flourish your mental health, because you can understand that whatever you feel intensely, you can soften that emotion by simply asking, what does this emotion need in order to quieten down? And then you do a bit of digging, you get away from the surface level and you go deeper to what need that emotion is communicating, because we now understand emotions are simply feedback for you to pay attention to what you need. Just to give a few examples of this, it's not a one size fits all, but just a few vague examples. Jealousy could be the feedback you need to understand, well, your needs of security and reassurance aren't being met right now. Anger could be the feedback you need to pay attention to realise you need respect or fairness. Resentment, appreciation, anxiety, safety, loneliness, connection. Your relationships and your mental health will begin to flourish when you see the emotions that you and other people feel through the lens of what do I need and what does this person need, and what is this emotion trying to communicate in terms of needs. Now, before we wrap this all up by covering the really important nuance I promised you with, let's finalise these 3 points by covering where needs actually come from in the first place. Now we're a bit clearer on what they are and how emotions link to them. Sorry, I spoke a bit quick in that last point, but maybe I'll add like 5 seconds to let that all digest. Now, there are 3 places I found our needs come from when researching for this video. There might be more, but I've only found 3 so far. Now, the first one, they're all fascinating, but I found the third one especially fascinating. The first one is a bit of a given, evolution. Now, you have we all share basic hardwired needs because they increase the chances of survival and flourishing for our ancestors. For example, the needs of safety, belonging, status, sexual connection, community, fairness. Our ancestors evolved in communities or environments where not pursuing the need of safety would have meant losing their life, decrease in survival. Not pursuing the need of sexual connection would have meant they couldn't procreate and pass their genes into the next generation. Fairness would have meant if they didn't pursue that need, then they would have been out of favour with the tribe, cast aside, ostracised, boom, left in the forest to fend for themselves and amongst the scary tigers alone. Bottom line here, some needs are hardwired because they increase your chances of survival. But then when I found that out, the question that arose in my mind was, well, if we all share the same basic human needs, why is it that some of us clearly need things at different levels of intensity? Then I found out it's because of childhood. Childhood is the thing that takes our basic human needs and acts as an intensity dial for them. So depending on your upbringing, that will determine what you need at which intensity. For example, again, not one size fits all, just examples. If you grew up in a household where love felt inconsistent, you might have a high need of reassurance if you were criticised when you were younger. You might have a high need of appreciation in your relationships now. If you became independent quite early on, you might have a high need of independence, space and autonomy. But if you were engulfed, if your parents were like helicopters following around you all the time, then you might have a high need of space. So that is the key takeaway there. Childhood acts as the intensity dial for the basic human needs we all share. I found that pretty cool. It was a big aha moment for me. Now, the final place our needs come from is the one I found most fascinating. Our needs come from identity. And the bottom line here is some things you have just convinced yourself that you need without actually questioning them. So your needs are just a narrative that you've maintained in your head. For example, I'm someone who needs freedom, depth, or admiration. But maybe you don't actually need those things, they've just been maintained from past narratives. Now, the idea of identity is interesting when it comes to needs because essentially what we're saying with identity is your self-image. Now, what is your self-image? Put simply, it is what you think about yourself and how you see yourself in your mind's eye. And the thing with the brain is it wants to maintain consistency with your self-image, which is why William James, the famous psychologist, said all those years ago, human beings ultimately become what they think of themselves. But anyway, back to our topic here. Some of your needs can simply just be a preference and not a genuine need, or they might be an insecurity based on past experiences, a status signal. Some needs are psychological, some needs are biological, some needs are ego and fear oriented, some are growth and expansively oriented. But to make all of this practical, I would say that a cool definition for maturity could be maturity is questioning your own needs without blindly defending them. So yeah, that is the key takeaway with this part. Some of your needs are just a narrative that you've maintained. So if you want to take one more step towards maturity, just question one step more whenever you've convinced yourself you need something. Do I actually need this? And see what answers come up. Okay. Those are the three places our needs come from. Now let's wrap up this video with the really important nuance a lot of people would probably argue I should have mentioned at the beginning, but anyway, we're mentioning now. Here's one thing I want you to keep in mind when it comes to needs. No one can help you meet all of your needs. Some needs are your responsibility to meet. For example, self-regulation, purpose, community, health, validation, whatever. Even if you were to meet Superman or Superwoman, there is no human being on earth who can help you meet all of your needs. Some are your responsibility to meet. And the main thing I want to help you prevent here, just as we wrap up this video, is making your relationships a pressure cooker where you throw the responsibility onto the other person or they throw it onto you to meet all of your needs. And the reason why doing that is you want to avoid that at all costs, is because even though it feels good to have this person meet your needs of purpose, regulation, validation, all of this stuff which you are responsible for meeting your own, if they go, all of your need meeting goes with them and boom, you're left with a shaky identity. In my perspective, the most healthy relationships are when two people at 100% come together to take each other to 350%. Because they both understand which needs of theirs they are responsible for meeting and which needs of theirs their partner can help them to meet. So to put this in a in a bottom line takeaway, your partner is responsible for caring about your needs, not for carrying all of them. Okay? Lewis? 19-year-old Lewis? Can you pay it? Sorry. In summary, stop asking, are they the right person? And start asking, are our needs compatible? And are we both willing to meet them? If the answer is yes, you don't need any magic. You'll have stability, you'll have growth, and you'll have safety. And that is what an awesome relationship actually feels like. Needs plus willingness equals mature adult love. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Stay disciplined, playful, and dangerous. If you've got any questions, because this is a bit of a open topic where there could be many areas of, how does this work? Do you explain this a little bit more? Let me know in the comments what questions you have and I'll look through them. Stay disciplined, playful and dangerous. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Adios, muchachos y muchachas.